Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Speaker, I rise, like I indicated earlier, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 39-2, to exercise the right of reply provided for under the said standing order. And I do so, sir, very reluctantly. Indeed, sir, it would have been my strong preference not to have to speak on this motion, because, to be frank with you, it is an issue that should not, in my mind, sir, respectfully, paying, of course, due deference to your infinite wisdom and deliberate judgment, it is an issue of a purely administrative nature that should not even have been the subject of a motion. But having become the subject of a motion, should not have been contaminated, distorted, and misrepresented with the kind of political misrepresentations and innuendos that characterize this debate. I, in fact, sir, started this afternoon's proceedings with some measure of optimism, because I heard the mover of the motion, the Honorable Member Tabitha Sarbo-Hali, herself say that this should not be a political or politicized debate. And I thought that, given that she is the mover of the motion, and given what I thought was a very deliberate attempt on her part not to make an overly political presentation on the matter, I thought perhaps, sir, that her colleagues would have taken their cue from her. But perhaps it was reckless of me to form that expectation, because true to form and consistent with their long-established pattern of behavior, the APNU-AFC displayed their customary incoherence, disjointed approach to every single issue, inconsistency, and fragmentation. Mr. Speaker, the member who came immediately after Ms. Honorable Sarbo-Hali on that side of the House went into an extremely inappropriate, if I might say so myself, distortion and manipulation of this issue. It was the Honorable Member, Mr. Figueroa, completely moving away from what the tone that Member Sarbo-Hali set, introducing all manner of irrelevance, and altering for the rest of the evening the tone of this debate. Sir, let me say this. This is an administrative matter, which indeed, sir, is the subject of concern on the part of the government, but is by no means a new issue. And the members on that side of the House, all of the members on that side of the House who came here and sought somehow to suggest that this is an artifact of an uncaring People's Progressive Party civic government, would have been guilty of alienating themselves from the facts surrounding this matter and deliberately pretending not to understand, first of all, the fact that this is a long-standing issue that persisted throughout their term in government, and indeed ours, and it has a perfectly credible reason and explanation. Sir, indeed in 2019, I'm not sure if the Honorable Member Sarah Bohali was minister. I know she came in at some point in time towards the tail end of their term of office. She might have been minister at the time. Were you minister? She was minister at the time. The Honorable Member was minister at the time. Sir, the Public Service Ministry, under the ministerial tenure of then Minister Sarah Bohali, issued circular number 2 of 2019. And that circular reads as follows. Mind you, that is 4 years after they had assumed office, purportedly with all of their concern and love for the public servants. 4 years after they entered office, and after Ms. Sarah Bohali entered the cabinet, after her government had lost its constitutional legitimacy, they belatedly discovered this problem and issued the circular that reads as follows. The circular is here, sir. I'd be happy to share it with anybody who's interested. It is dated 9th of December 2019. And it says, there is seemingly, and I quote, there is seemingly some misinformation concerning the practice of the payment of salary to new entrants into the public service, which is being relayed could only be done within a 3-month period. Please be advised that there is no such official policy, regulation, or rule. Hence, the practice and misinformation, a 4-year-old government speaking here. Hence, the practice and misinformation must cease forthwith. Under no circumstance should an employee be told that they have to wait until 3 months to be paid salary. All permanent secretaries, REOs, and heads not under ministerial control are reminded, and here is the solution that they proposed. Here is the solution that they proposed. Are reminded that the Department of Public Service, as it was then miniaturized to, the Department of Public Service will issue, for the convenience of the payment of salary, an approval for not more than 6 months of temporary employment. However, simultaneously, the approval to fill must be sent to the Public Service Commission for permanent pensionable appointment by way of the issue of the government order. In order for employees to receive their salaries in a timely manner, permanent secretaries, REOs, and heads of departments not under ministerial control are hereby cautioned to acquire the necessary documentation for employment, example, birth certificate, ID card, TIN certificate, and bank account information prior to having persons assume duty in their agencies. Sir, this was the carefully considered solution. Sir, do you know what the consequence of this was? It simply postponed the problem because the temporary appointment was issued, and when a permanent appointment letter was subsequently not issued in a timely manner, countless employees fell off the payroll and had to then await the issuance of their permanent employment letter or contract to return to the payroll. This is a widely known fact. Sir, the background to this circular reflects, and clearly the minister would have received the advice of our technical officers, reflects an understanding of what the problem was. And the Honorable Attorney General describe this problem. The reality is that given the employment process, which involves typically an advertisement, and I'm speaking here of the central government, not of semi-autonomous agencies and so on. They have a similar but slightly different process. In the central government, the reality is positions are advertised, applications are received, top-ranked candidates are identified and offered a job. And a process to formalize their employment is then initiated. That process involves sometimes approaching the Public Service Ministry for a contract to be finalized, or approaching the relevant constitutional commission, be it the Teaching Service Commission or the Public Service Commission, for a government order to be issued. The reality is that that process, not as a result of government policy, the reality is that that process, partly because the executive does not have control over the constitutional commissions, partly as a result of the bureaucracy sometimes not moving as efficiently as it should, partly as a result of inadvertent delays committed oftentimes at the desks of public servants who otherwise generally are incredibly hardworking people and for whom we have the highest and greatest of respect. The reality, sir, is that that process sometimes ends up being a protracted one. As a result of which, if that individual is told to turn out to work before the government order is issued or before the contract is signed or before an appointment letter is issued, the reality is that that employee ends up having to wait for the government order to be issued, or for the contract to be signed, or for the appointment letter to be issued. Now, the Honorable Leader of the Opposition cited the example given by the Honorable Attorney General. I believe where this process is typically completed in a month. And I believe somebody else, I think it was the Honorable Member, Dr. Cummings, who made reference, I believe, and she will no doubt correct me if I'm wrong, made reference, I think it was to the GPHC, where she said that the process works very well there and it's completed in a month. And there's a reason for that. Those entities are semi-autonomous. They are governed by boards of directors. Those boards of directors have exclusive authority over recruitment matters. And so once the management decides to appoint somebody, that recommendation, if it's of the relevant, in some cases, the authority to employ is delegated to the CEO or managing director. If it's of a certain seniority, it goes to the board and it's typically approved within a month. There's a very simple reason why at an entity like the Deeds and Commercial Authority, or the GPHC, which is an example that the Honorable Dr. Cummings cited, it's a very simple reason why the process is completed in a month. In the case of an employee who is subject to contract that goes through PSM, or a person who is appointed by a constitutional commission, the process regrettably can be a more protracted one. Now, this, as the Honorable Member, Ms. Sarbohali, I'm sure is aware, having served as minister in that department, as it was then called, I have no doubt that she's well aware of what the solution is. There's a very simple solution. And that simple solution is to say to every single permanent secretary, REO, and head of department that nobody is to be told to assume duty until their government order is issued with an effective date of employment, or until their contract is signed with an effective date of employment. That would solve this problem immediately, because that way nobody is going to come on the job and wait for weeks or months until the contract is signed somewhere and the contract moves from somebody's desk to another person's desk, all of whom are incidentally public servants, and like I said, hardworking public servants, sometimes overwhelmed by the volume of tasks on their desks. If they told them as a government, and or if we tell now as the incumbent government, every permanent secretary that you are not to have any staff assume duty until their government order is issued, like I said a minute ago, or until their appointment letter is issued or their contract is issued with an effective date of employment, they must not turn out for duty. You will not have this problem. You will not have this problem because they're going to turn out for duty when their appointment letter is issued, and that appointment letter is going to be processed immediately to put them on the payroll, and they might get paid within the first month. But sir, this is not a question of technology. The technology is about the electronic processing of the payroll. You don't have, technology can control when the Public Service Commission will meet to approve the appointment. Technology can control when the Teaching Service Commission will meet to approve the government order. That's the reality. That's the reality. I just said the solution is to say, do not turn out for work until your government order is issued or until your contract is signed. But sir, imagine this reality. You have a young person, the Honorable Leader of the Opposition quite rightly said that most of these people are young people. Certainly under this government, I gather under our predecessors, you had to be a minimum of 70 years old to obtain employment. But we're not going to open that issue now. Perhaps this is why the Honorable Leader of the Opposition perhaps was too young for a suitable appointment during that term of office. But the Honorable Leader of the Opposition, sir, quite correctly said that a lot of these people are young people. Now, a young person who has just left school, they have just gotten their freshly minted CXC certificate, CSEC, I think it is called now. Or they've just graduated from UG and they've just gotten this transcript or this letter from the university or this certificate to say, I've graduated. And they are busy sending out letters of application. And the government agency calls them the bright young person with 8, 9 grade 1s or whatever it is, or a distinction or a credit at UG, and they are called by a government agency. And they're interviewed, and they do well at this interview. And the government agency needs the person in place as quickly as possible. This is why the position was advertised in the first instance. The government agency needs the person immediately. And the person probably wants to get this job quickly. A lot of young people, if you say to them, well, don't turn out as yet because we have an administrative process, they'll go away and be worried. I wonder if somebody else is going to get me a job. I wonder if this job will still be here. What am I going to do? My friends are already working and I'm not working as yet. I would like to be in employment too. Sir, we live in the real world. A lot of these young people, the same young people that the Honorable Leader of the Opposition spoke of, a lot of these young people, they want to start out. They want to use their skills. They want to have a job. And the government agency wants to utilize their skills. Now, these two parties, the recruiting agency and the potential new recruit, have a choice. They could agree, look, can you turn out on Monday? We want to recruit you and we're going to put this process in train. You want to turn out on Monday? We are guaranteeing you that we're going to employ you. You are the top ranked candidate. But understand that there's a bureaucracy that is not functioning as efficiently as it should. So it's probably going to take a while for the government order to be issued, but we want you. Or it's going to take a while for the contract to be issued. The person says, I'm glad to take this job, and decides to turn out for the job. The bureaucracy does not function as efficiently as it should, and it ends up taking 2 months. Sir, that young person takes that job knowing that when that first pay is processed, it's going to be retroactive to the day that they started. So they're going to get, it's not that they're not going to be paid for that first month or that second month, it's retroactive to the date that they were appointed. They may end up in that first month, if they had to wait 2 months, they will get 2 months salary on that first month. So the alternative, sir, there are two very simple alternatives. Either we permit this practice to continue, that you tell people turn out, and you have the process to process their contract and process their appointment letter go through its course. And admittedly, that process should be made more efficient. And we would be the first to say so. Or we say very simply that until we fix this bureaucratic inertia that has persisted clearly, at least during the 5 years that the APNU AFC was in office, and frankly speaking, even before then, we can take the position that, look, we want to bring this thing to a stop. You're not turning out for duty until the government order is issued or until the contract is signed. That's plain and simple, sir. That is what this is all about. And one could very easily take the position that we will implement that. We will not let anybody turn out for duty until you have a contract that is signed or until you have a government order that is issued. We could easily take that position, sir. And I can assure you that by the next month, people will be on the payroll. This is a simple matter. That's a simple matter, sir. This is a, Mr. Speaker, this bureaucracy that the other side, my colleagues on the other side of the Honorable House is complaining about, that clearly they grappled with for 5 years until they realized there was a problem and then implemented a half-baked solution. They didn't solve the problem. They didn't solve the problem. They said, give you a temporary contract to hold on and then we're going to see what happens. So let me say this, that this very bureaucracy that they're lamenting that they were unable to solve and that they're saying, okay, we don't want to solve it. It is manned by public servants and they're hardworking public servants. It's manned by hardworking public servants. Sir, it's plain, sir, what I'm saying is very simple English language. And anybody who is working in the, but let me tell you, sir, what this motion, they know that, you know, because they know the circle. I saw the Honorable Member, Sir Bohali, smiling with recognition when I referred to it. They know this problem. And they know that they came up with perhaps what they thought was the best, but admittedly half-baked solution. They know the magnitude of the problem. Sir, the reality is that this motion had nothing to do about concern for public servants and caring for people. This motion, sir, was plain and simple political grandstanding. Plain and simple political grandstanding. An attempt, sir, to deceive the public servants because they take their eyes past the people and think the people are stupid, but they are not. An attempt, sir, to insult the intelligence of these public servants, all of whom understand this process because they're working in the public service. And let me hasten to add that the public service is full of remarkable, hardworking, good, talented people. I have had the privilege, sir, of being a public servant myself. And I've had the privilege, sir, of serving as minister in a ministry that is populated with some of the most outstanding public servants that I've encountered anywhere in the world. But, sir, this was an attempt to engage in political grandstanding, to come and pretend to be concerned about the public servants. You know, sir, let me make this point. Let me make this point. The honorable member who spoke on this side before me, I believe it was the Honorable Attorney General, spoke about all of the poor people that they profess to love and whose cause they profess to champion, but whose circumstances they damaged in a lasting way. Sir, so they claim, our colleagues on that side of the house claim, sir, that they love public servants and they champion their cause. Sir, let me say this. Let me say this. You think the public servants don't know? You think the public servants don't know, or that they have forgotten that you compelled thousands of them to give up their contract gratuity status and to move to permanent establishment status? Do you know what effect that had, sir? That had the effect, sir, of reducing those people's emoluments by 22.5%. Sir, the APNU AFC in government compelled public servants to give up their contract gratuity status, including professionals, sir, medical doctors who may not want to stay until 55 to get a pension, medical doctors who may not want to stay until 55 to get a pension, were told you have to give up your contract gratuity and lose your 22.5% and go over to fixed establishment. Taking away, sir, they didn't love public servants then. They didn't love public servants then, sir. In that one action, sir, they didn't give them the option. You can't impose security on people. If you wanted to offer them the option, that's a different matter. They were told, you don't have a choice. You have to come over to the fixed establishment. Sir, that reduced the salaries of these people by 22.5%, reduced the total emoluments of these people by 22.5%, taking away their contract gratuity. You don't think those people remember what you did to them? Sir, that is not all. And you wonder why they sent you back over to that side of the house? You wonder why they sent you back to that side of the house? Sir, but that is not all. That is not all. Some of these, sir, many of these public servants, and I'm using public servant here, not in the narrowest of definitions, but in a slightly broader definition. Many of these public servants, sir, were members of the discipline services. Many central government employees were members of the discipline services. Policemen and women, men in uniform, men and women in uniform, soldiers, men and women in uniform, firemen. So I am not talking about contracts, sir. You know what they did? They took away the 1 month bonus from them. They took away the 1 month bonus from them. Sir, I know they're contracted employees, but I also know that under the People's Progressive Party civic government, they used to get a 1 month bonus. And you vindictively took away that bonus from them, thereby reducing their emoluments by 1/13. You vindictively took it away from them, hurting them in their pockets, and you come now and pretend to love these people. You understand why they sent you over there and will keep you over there for a very long time? Sir, but that is not all. That is not all, sir. Sir, that is not all. Sir, they issued an edict. They issued an edict that salary in lieu of leave. They issued an edict, sir, that salary in lieu of leave will be banished, will be outlawed. The same public servants that you claim to love, the same public servants that you claim to love, they issued an edict. They all went publicly and said, use it or lose it. If you do not use your leave, you will lose your leave. They issued an edict. They issued a circular. And sir, if I had the time, I would find that circular and read it. They said, sir, if you do not use your leave, no matter that the exigencies of the service didn't allow you to take your leave, no matter that you're working hard, doing the work of the government and the work of the people, if you don't take your leave, use it or lose it. Sir, thousands of public servants who had historically been accustomed to a situation where if they were told that the exigencies of the service prevented you from taking your leave, they could accumulate their leave, defer their leave, and either take their leave in a larger block or ultimately obtain payment for their leave. They abolished, sir, salary in lieu of leave. But sir, it doesn't end there. It doesn't end there. They abolished salary in lieu of leave. I have the circular here, sir. Sir, but I want to share this with you. While the APNU AFC issued a circular to tell public servants you cannot get your salary in lieu of leave, they issued a circular saying that. And several of their ministers went public. Several of their ministers went public and said public servants must take your leave or else you lose it. What was very interesting, sir, that when a certain public servant was moved over from her public service status to her ministerial appointment, she managed to convince one of her ministerial colleagues who is sitting in this house Sir, it is a matter of public record that when Miss Tabitha Sarabo Hali, the honorable member, was appointed, was moved from her public service position, where she was subject to the same public service rules like all the other public servants. When she was moved from her public service position and appointed as a minister, she secured, sir, a letter signed by the Honorable Don Hastings, assuring her that she will be paid for her salary in lieu of leave, while all the other public servants were being told you will lose your salary in lieu of leave. The Honorable Member Sarbo Hali got a letter to say you'll be paid for your salary in lieu of leave. Sir, not only that, sir. When that letter was sent to the Ministry of Finance, under their administration, the then Ministry of Finance refused to process it because they knew the rule. They knew the rule, and they refused to process it. They said there's no exception to this rule. We're not going to process this. Sir, when the People's Progressive Party Civic assumed office, we received a lawyer's letter from the Honorable Roysdale Ford, demanding payment of salary in lieu of leave to the Honorable Member Tabitha Sarabo Hali.
Honorable Minister, I'll have to give you a minute to wind up. The timings for this debate was 25 minutes plus 5, and we have exhausted plus 5.
Sir, demanding payment of a hefty sum. Oh, my apologies, my apologies.
Your Honor, we ask kindly that the Honorable Minister of Finance be given 5 minutes to conclude his presentation.
Honorable Minister Manik Chan, the time we had was 25 minutes plus 5. The Honorable Minister started at 7:27 according to my computer clock, and it's now 8:01. So I was saying to the Honorable Minister, the plus 5 was also exhausted, but I'll grant him 2 minutes to conclude.
Very well, sir.
Just to finish the thought, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Sir, the Honorable Member, Ms. Tabitha Sarbo Hali, got her legal representative, the Honorable Member Roysdale Ford, to write legal letters and institute legal proceedings, demanding payment of the same salary in lieu of leave to herself, which she was denying public servants across the entire public service. a very hefty sum, sir. So don't come here. Don't come here. That is a matter of public record. Those legal proceedings are a matter of public record. And this People's Progressive Party civic government had to pay Tabitha, the Honorable Member Tabitha Sarbo-Halley, a huge sum for salary in lieu of leave, which she and her government had denied thousands of public servants in Guyana. So don't come here. Don't come here and pretend to love public servants. Don't come here and pretend to champion the cause of public servants. You served nobody but yourselves. And that is why you're on that side of the house. And that is why you will be on that side of the house for a very, very, very long time to come. Thank you very much, sir.